It feels like it happened at the right time for me, I think.
Putting the costume back on again. It's quite heavy, quite hot.
I enjoyed playing him again really a lot.
It was super cool. I mean, you know, I remember the first day Ewan come into set and you're just like, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi standing in front of you.
It was epic.
Since we're about roughly the same age, I figured that you grew up with watching the prequels, just like I did.
No.
When was the first time you watched them?
When I got the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you like them?
You know, it was nice to get involved in the franchise in this way. You know, it becomes a lot more personal when you start to see the timeline and everything that's going on. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan now.
Okay.
But I didn't know so much then.
I mean, you knew about the iconic pop culture characters.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
How did it feel to see them the first time in real life?
It was epic. And I think what's even more epic than that is like being on set with lifelong fans working on the show who were just stopped in their tracks when they see Ewan or they see Hayden. And both of them are so gracious in interacting with people. People just are like, can I hold your lightsaber? Like, can you sign mine? You know, it's a really, really great work environment.
When I grew up, you were Obi-Wan.
Right.
And, but I know that you studied Sir Alec Guinness's version of Obi-Wan for episode 1. How much of Sir Alec Guinness is still in this version of Obi-Wan after you've portrayed him for so long?
More, I think. The challenge wasn't just to try and study Alec Guinness for episode 1. It's got to be in all of it. Like the character I play becomes Alec Guinness, you know, in episode 4. It's quite an odd acting challenge because the older I get, the closer I get to Alec Guinness, the more I have to be like him, if you like. So there's obviously there's things I found like in the episode 1 when I was young, and there's something very youthful about Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 1. And he's sort of running around and fighting and flying spaceships and stuff. It doesn't feel like Alec Guinness, you know, because Alec Guinness we know as being this older, wise, quiet, slow, thoughtful man. So when I was doing all this action stuff, it was quite difficult to feel like him, but I was always trying, I guess. But in this, I have to hear him in my head. I think I always hear the lines. I'd imagine him saying them, and then we'll shoot the scene. And if sometimes I would say to Deborah, when we were happy with that we had the takes, I would ask for one more, and I'd do sort of an Alec Guinness one, just to make sure, you know, like do a sort of over-the-top Alec Guinness impersonation take, which probably never made it into the show, but anyway.
Was that the reason why we had to wait so long for the spin-off? Because you had to look the part?
To get older. No, I think it just took. I think it just took the time it took. I don't think anyone was waiting on anyone else. It just has to evolve, you know. It feels like it happened at the right time for me, I think. For me, certainly. I enjoyed playing him again really a lot.
How did it feel to direct this legacy, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader?
It was super cool. I mean, you know, I remember the first day Ewan come into set and you're just like, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi standing in front of you, and he's just so seamless with the character that he walks on and, you know, that's the series. You can feel it right then. And then with Vader, just getting the opportunity to direct Vader, you know, it doesn't happen very often you know, that anybody gets to direct Vader. So it was a real honor, but it was pretty intense. The first time he came out, he was like twice my size, and you're kind of like, Jesus, that's Darth Vader, you know?
Did it take convincing for Hayden Christensen to come back as Darth Vader because of all the harsh criticism he received after the prequels?
Well, I went and met with Hayden, you know, while we were still in development and we were still working on the story. And actually, we're both from Toronto, so I met with him originally in Toronto, and it was a really nice way to meet with him because it was just us. And you know, I explained it to him, and I think for our series, I think the biggest thing was that we didn't want to just bring him back just because, and we really wanted to only do it if it felt right. But in the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously Anakin and Vader were so pivotal to his life that we really felt we couldn't tell the story without addressing that or getting into that emotionally. And so Hayden, when we talked it through and explained it to him, he totally understood, and then he was very excited to join us.
It didn't require much convincing. No, I was so excited to get to come back and do more with this character and just get to be a part of the Star Wars universe again. Yeah, it was a great opportunity.
How did you prepare your return?
You know, I went back and I sort of rewatched all of the films, and then I got into, you know, some of the series and the animated shows. I read some comics. I tried to take in as much as I could and just sort of learn as much as I could, because the stories have continued to grow, and so there was some catching up to do there.
How did it feel to come back to the set?
It was very surreal. Just putting the costume back on again and stepping onto set, it was an incredible experience. I'm very sort of grateful for all of this. This has been quite a thrill for me.
How heavy and hot is it under the Vader costume?
It's quite heavy, quite hot. It's a real beast of a costume. Not really designed for like bathroom breaks, but you know, just such a cool experience though to get to wear it, and to get to see people's reactions to Vader. You know, that's always good fun.
Can you tell me about one of those reactions that might have stuck with you?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a reaction when they see Vader, you know, and there's definitely like a change in demeanor. Like people that are you know, sort of very confident sort of become a little more timid, and people are a little bit, you know, reluctant to look you directly in the eye, and it's good fun.
When I saw Darth Maul spinning that double lightsaber when I was a child,
Yeah.
I was immediately drawn to the dark side.
Oh, I love it.
So Sith just have the cooler lightsabers, don't you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Can you tell me about the lightsaber training?
It was really involved. And you know what? The thing is, there are a lot of muscles in your hand that you never use until you need to spin a lightsaber. And so I spent a lot of time icing my hands, you know, in the meantime, before I got to like really learn the right way to do it. But once you get it right, you feel really, really powerful.
Did you get to take your lightsaber home with you?
They actually sent me the hilt of my lightsaber as a gift, and it is hanging on my wall of special things.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
What were the biggest differences in working on Kenobi and the prequels?
I mean, obviously it's a different group of people telling the story. You know, when we were doing the prequels, that was all George Lucas, and you know, what an honor to get to work with him. But I was very excited to get to come and work with Deborah Chow. You know, she is an incredibly impressive storyteller and person. And I felt like we were sort of all in good hands with her.
Deborah directed all 6 of our episodes, and of course on the original films that I made, it was George directed all 3 of those. So that makes a big difference. You know, a director has an absolute vision and has an effect on the way the film feels to shoot, and we were lucky with Deborah because she's such a brilliant director. And she really knows this world, you know, she really knows this world in a way that I don't. Like, she'll know storylines that are deeply buried in the Clone Wars animations. I don't know that. So she's very knowledgeable and also a really, really talented director. So.
You were the first woman to helm an entire Star Wars series from the beginning until the end. Kenobi was at first planned to be a movie spin-off, like Solo. Why did the story benefit from it being a series instead of a movie?
For me, it was one of the best things, actually, having the limited series format, because what we really wanted to do was to tell a character-driven story, and so having the longer format really helped us, because you can have more time to develop the character. You can do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally have time for in a feature.
What's the most challenging about creating a spin-off? Is it the coherency with the other Star Wars movies? Is it the expectations of the fans? Or is it something completely different?
I think it's both of those things, for sure. You know, one of the most challenging aspects was, you know, we're in between 2 trilogies with characters that are so iconic and that everybody knows what happened before and after them. So we're largely telling the second act of their lives. So that comes with a great responsibility, is that you want to obviously respect the canon and everything George did, but at the same time we had to tell our own story and we needed to tell something new. So it was trying to find the balance between those 2 things. But it was also very exciting to get to take very iconic characters and to have such a huge backstory coming into the show with them.
You just said that it's in the middle of two trilogies. Did you have the feeling that you had to connect them visually?
Yes and no. I mean, we're very connected to the prequels and especially Revenge of the Sith. But also the technology has evolved and changed, obviously, since they made the prequels. And, you know, so stylistically for me, I always feel like Star Wars is very connected to Westerns and samurai films. So I always go back to the references of Westerns, samurais. And so it's not so much maybe in terms of an exact visual style, but I think it's the visual language that underpins Star Wars for me, that as long as I keep connecting to those Westerns and samurais, it feels like it stays in the right world.
You just mentioned the technology advanced. How much of Kenobi was shot in the volume and how much on location and why?
It was a mixture, actually. So it was a mixture of stagecraft, some on location, some backlot, some traditional sets. So it really depends on what the scene is and what kind of lighting conditions it is. There's some things that the volume does much better and some things that it doesn't do as well. So we really sort of broke it down according to what the scene was and what would work the best visually.
Did you get to shoot in the volume and how does it feel compared to a green screen?
Yeah, the volume is amazing. You know, obviously we did a lot of the blue screen and green screen work in the prequels, but now they have the environments for you. And I remember the first time I walked into the volume, I was just so taken with it. I mean, you're in Star Wars. It's quite the experience.
It's really a very different experience, and it's a very good experience for the actors. It just makes a huge difference. You know, if you're in the cockpit of a spaceship and you're flying through space, well, everywhere you look, the space is going past you. It feels very realistic. If you're in the desert, it's desert everywhere, you know. And there's no post-production. Somebody that doesn't have to go in and put the background in later. It's there, you know, and it's so clever, the technology. When the camera moves, the background changes perspective. So it's all in camera, and it's exciting to work that way.
We went back for reshoots this year, and we were reshooting on my birthday, which, I mean, I kind of even forgot that it was my birthday, and we were just at work, and you know, the volume it's massive, and we had someone had just yelled cut, and then I noticed pictures of me up on the volume, and the volume is huge, so it's like my face is like gigantic, and then they sang me happy birthday and, you know, brought me brownies and stuff, and that was really special.
After shooting on location for Tatooine, for example, what do you think about sand?
Yeah, sand is hard to shoot in after a long time, and also when we were shooting, it was incredibly hot. So just the heat wave of it all was very difficult, you know. So I think some of the conditions, but in some ways, sometimes that's not a bad thing because it feels very authentic. And I think for the performances and everything, you're really out there in those conditions.
You know, I understand Anakin's contempt for sand. He grew up on a desert planet. It wasn't you know, the best experience for him. But yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, and I saw some photos of the set in the desert where you were wearing the pandemic mask.
Yes.
Can you tell me about how filming under the conditions of the pandemic changed?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've never gone through, and I'm sure, you know, it's been a first for everybody, but we made the entire thing through COVID. So it was challenging. You know, a lot of our pre-production was remote, you know, and so we were only like a week out until we started shooting, and I was meeting for the first time a lot of people in person for the very first time, which is a little crazy. And then to go through the whole shoot. So, you know, when we started, it was so much PPE, and we were using like face shields and masks, and you know, so it was quite stressful to start out with COVID, and then, you know, I think the vaccine came out not long after when we started, and then it got a little bit easier, but it was challenging for sure.
I mean, you've got all sorts of new COVID protocols, trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. But you know, I don't know. I just thought we were very fortunate to get to do the show when we did. You know, it was a very uncertain time, but we tried to stay as safe as possible.
What were the biggest differences in working on The Mandalorian and Kenobi?
Well, that was one of the big. We weren't in COVID during Mandalorian, so that was a lot easier. But I think the biggest difference was Mandalorian. You know, it's in a different period in the timeline, and it's a lot of the characters are new, so there was a lot more freedom with it. So it was kind of fun because we were doing new characters and sort of finding it as we were developing it. Whereas this, you know, it's so different. It's such a strong legacy element to it and the canon and everything. But it's been interesting having worked on both of them. They're both interesting.
Reva, she's a new character to the whole universe. So I'm curious about her. How would you describe your character?
Fearless. And she'll do anything she has to get the job done. She will cut someone down easily. Easily, yeah.
From what I saw in the trailer, she does look kind of badass.
Yeah.
And I read that you had some part of designing how she looks. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, Deborah Chow, our director, was really great about allowing me to be a part of the process of developing Reva and who she would be. And it was just really important for me, you know, when growing up, if I wanted to be a princess, if I wanted to, you know, play a certain person, 9 times out of 10, I needed to wear a wig to do it. And I just would have felt so wrong for me to step into this with kinky hair that I have, and kids still need to wear a wig in order to be me. That just didn't feel right or sit right with me. And so we went with braids, and it was great.
Yeah, Ben, thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Yeah, this was cool.
Yeah, it was really nice meeting you.
You too.